Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Book of Refugees podcast. In this episode, I'll be talking to Paul Wordsworth from York City of Sanctuary. Hello, Paul.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Thanks. Welcome to the Book of Refugees podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So, Paul, if you'd like to tell us about yourself, a little bit of background so we know who we're talking to.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm no stranger to York. I've been here for 35 years, man and boy. I came originally as my work as a priest in the Church of England, working in a downtown York community. There is downtown in York, not very widely visited by the tourists, but it is there, just outside the city centre in an area called the Groves, which suggests somewhere leafy and close to the river. Well, it's close to the river anyways. A mixture of gentrified housing and council housing, which is a curious mixture. But my main task there was, which I worked at with the local church, was to address issues in the community and to improve life for those living in the community, identifying the needs that were there. So first of all, there's a big survey of the community, going around knocking doors and asking people what they enjoyed about living in the community of Groves and what they found difficult. And armed with those results, we identified that one of the major issues was crime, and another one was the issue of homelessness. Large numbers of people being placed in the Groves in bed and breakfast accommodation, and what were we going to do about it? That was an interesting question, and so we decided that we would begin by trying to speak with homeless people and what their needs were, and we eventually set up a food bank and a shelter and a place where people could go and meet with us in a safe area. And after that work, we developed, in the end, a charity called Arclight, and from that, a £4 million hostel where people could be provided with what they needed, that is, secure, safe shelter. And that provided for 40 people every night, and in their own ensuite facilities, the first in the country to have that, and a gym, and a kitchen where they could learn how to cook. I never learnt that bit of it. My wife said I should go every night and learn, but anyway, there we go. And that's still there, still running, and successful still. I moved on from there after 20 years working with homeless people to look at the next need, because I felt that my work there had come to an end, that, it was an area that was being carefully looked after now by the council as well as ourselves and other charities, and I discovered that there was an increased number of refugee people in the city, and that drew my attention to it, and met with other people about the issue, and we agreed that one of the ways forward for us would be to look at developing some way of assisting those who are coming to the city in the need for shelter and safety and sanctuary, which led us to look at the work of a national organisation called City of Sanctuary. We met a few times, council leaders and councillors and various other people, and it was clear to me that unless somebody took the lead on this, it would just, fall into the swamp and fall beneath the waves and never be seen again. So it was a question of who is going to lead this, and as usual, the answer came to me, well, it looks like you, doesn't it? So why me? Well, why not? So that's where I began my work in City of Sanctuary.
Okay, really interesting. I thought you had the background with Arclight and things. So
I do.
People were looking at you. And
yes, people do look at me and say, well, you've done something. You've worked with homeless people. You've worked with disadvantaged people. You know what it's like to face abuse. So why don't you just take something else on as well?
Well, yeah. It's great. So City of Sanctuary, is that a national organisation?
It is, yes. It's a national movement. It began in Sheffield, another northern city, 10 times bigger than New York. And quite a number of refugees and asylum seekers were being placed in Sheffield as what was called a displacement centre. The Home Office had to find accommodation for people, and in those days Sheffield, with its large city, was providing places for people. But again, it was an idea that began just in the local church, as ours, Arclight, did. A local Methodist minister who felt there were needs here that were not being addressed, and so the idea was to develop a city in which the culture of welcome and support and hospitality were, shared between many parts of the community of Sheffield, and in every aspect, from schools and faith groups and councils would together embrace that agenda of welcome and support and hospitality. And it spread a movement from Sheffield to Bradford to Leeds, Wakefield, and then here in Hull we met with the council. And in fact, in 2016, we became a nationally approved city of sanctuary, so that we fulfill all the criteria necessary to show that the many different parts of the city, community groups are working to ensure that there is a welcome and there is some support available, and that there is a sense of sanctuary for those who come here. They feel safe, they feel protected, they feel there are people who are their friends. They feel there are people they can turn to help them through the complex issues of, just simply being in a different culture with a different language, and learning their way through all the issues that will come to them when they arrive in the city. So, for example, finding a place for their children to be educated. Well, how do you go that? Who's going to help you? So we have developed over the time a comprehensive way of providing that and making sure that the city lives up to its title as a city of sanctuary. So we, as I say, we became a city of sanctuary officially in 2016. In 2017, York City of Sanctuary, the organisation itself, had developed sufficiently for us to decide we would become a registered charity. So we needed to increase our funding to help people from a variety of backgrounds. Many different cultures were coming here in increasing numbers. When we started, York wasn't a place that people were dispersed to. I mean, we were a small city, just over 200,000 people as opposed to Leeds, which is nearly 2 million. So many places had far more refugees than we did. So in the beginning, we were actually going out of our way to help other cities. So we were supporting groups in Wakefield, in Bradford, and in Hull. But now our situation is that we've become a city with nearly 1,000 refugees and asylum seekers. So I'm sorry we can't help you any longer, Hull. You're on your own. And Wakefield and Bradford likewise. But we are now working in partnership with City of York Council, Refugee Action York, a whole range of different groups already have signed up their support to us, like the York Mosque, like York Minster, like many other, individuals and organisations to enable our work to continue. I'll say we've got nearly 1,000 asylum seekers and refugees. We've got nearly 400 Ukrainians who are here, who came when the war started, that illegal war, that invasion by Putin. Dare I say that word? Now I'm going to have to wash my mouth out of it. It was Putin who started it all. Let's remember that. And they're mainly women and children who've come here. Their husbands and partners are on the front line, who've had to change from being architects and dentists to go and work on the front line. And they've come here precisely to be a place of safety and refuge and sanctuary for them. But of course they arrive probably in many cases with no English, certainly the children. And so all of that has had to be learnt. They came mostly under what was called the Welcome to Ukraine program set up by Boris Johnson. Anybody remember him? I expect the person who's given birth to his however many children remembers him. So that was a really, that was a good humanitarian thing to do, but it had severe limitations insofar as people were welcomed into the homes of volunteers, people who hosted people for a 6-month period. Not sure why 6 months, whether they thought the war would be over in that time, I don't know, but it did mean that at the end of 6 months, many of the hosts said, well, the time's up and, they aren't going home, what's happening? So we've been helping to find people places to rent. Now, I just need to remind listeners that here in York, rents in the city are amongst the highest in the north of England. And, you might find rents like these in Brighton or, parts of London, but York is particularly difficult to find a suitable rented accommodation at a price people can afford. But But we've managed to persuade landlords. You can imagine me sitting in front of a landlord and just talking and talking and talking until they said, "Please, I surrender. I'll give you. What do you want? Well, how much can you want? How much do you want to pay? Tell me and I'll give you it." So, we've had some generous help from landlords to accommodate pretty much all of the people who needed to be renting their own accommodation and helping them to find work and helping their children to study and to find suitable schools near them and so on. So a whole variety of things. And in some cases, the places rented were completely bare of furniture and carpets. So we've helped to provide all of that as well. It's been a mammoth task, but we've had a lot of support and help from a variety of people, including we're in partnership with the York Community Store, Furniture Store Centre, and we have a good relationship with them when we need a chest of drawers or a wardrobe or something or other. We've had a lot of help, and the city's small, so we can build good relationships with people around us. It's not a single thing, and we're not working here on our own. And whatever we've done is not just us. It's a partnership, which is a beautiful thing, and it's a reminder of how a city works best when people are working together. It's not just building some own empire of your own. It's about creating, a partnership that's living and working, and that's how we've been able to do so much of what we do.
That's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you've covered everything. But how is City of Sanctuary funded? Is it just completely charitable donations?
Yes, we don't have any national funding. There's nothing from the government directly. The government paid, as part of the Homes for Ukraine scheme, the government paid the city an amount of money for each Ukrainian who came, adult and child, including an allowance for, provision in school, which was generous and helpful. And of course, in the beginning, in April 2022 onwards, there was a large influx of Ukrainian people all at the same time. So quite a considerable fund came to the city council, and we agreed with them that we would be the lead agency for working with Ukrainians. So we would take the strain, and most of our work is done by volunteers. So that meant it was going to be more economical for us to do it than the city employing lots of people to do that. So we've taken it on. An organisation called York Ukraine Sport Team was developed. One of our trustees came out of trusteeship in order to be the leader, and we recruited Ukrainians to act as interpreters and to help deal with financial issues and so on. So that we initially had people who had the language and could advise us and so on. And we have a fortnightly drop-in for Ukrainians and all of the refugees come together, bring their problems, and if we don't have someone who can translate, then we find someone who can. So that's how. So there was money in the pot, and we drew from that in order to provide, a leadership team, and to ensure that we had the right skilled staff to assist Ukrainians into all the areas that I've mentioned: housing, education and so on. But again, we needed to work with the council on that, and so we were lead agents but also partners as well. So that was one pot of funding, but we have lots of other jobs activities we're doing. We're just developing a project with Afghan women and girls who have come to this city and are currently mostly in the residential hotel for asylum seekers. They're quite a hard-to-reach group, and we have enabled them to come out of their place in a hotel to regular meetings. Some of them have been trained in working in kitchens and getting qualifications for hygiene and so on. And very soon, I think next month, they're going to be put on an Afghan feast where they're going to display their skills in cooking and invite people to a special evening of Afghan festivities and so on. This is enabling them, sort of opening out the opportunities for them to move out of just sitting in a hotel room waiting for a decision. And so that, again, needs leadership and Afghan translators and so on. It's just another project, but we've again received some funding from different people to do it. Funding is an issue because lots of government grants and to local authorities have diminished, and so more charities looking to, trusts and so on for help, and we're just amongst them. But I never worry about money at the moment because it comes. If we need money, then we'll get it. And that's my view of it. So it's very optimistic.
But it's good that you get it. Is the University of York involved at all in City of Sanctuary?
Yes, the University of York, and I'll also mention York St John University just for balance here. The other universities are available in the city. Yes, the University of York also applied to become a University of Sanctuary, and we assisted them in that, which means that they also are part of that community and partnership of activities in the city which are providing a welcome, and they also provide scholarships for refugees to apply to, and we have a number of people already in the university. I've just been speaking to some this morning who are here at the university who come from other countries on scholarships and so on, but also they need advice on their setting and their situation and what's going to happen to them when they finish here at the university. So we have lots of activities in which the university is involved. York St John, for example, have a regular place booking where people can go and receive learning in English provided by students from the university there. So we've got good partnerships. Our aim is, I call it subversive. The aim is, as an organisation, to encourage welcome and hospitality and support for a positive dialogue and a positive story about refugees and what they bring to the city. This is important, and we don't impose this on people. We're working at it through the root from underneath, so that eventually people say, how did we get to this point? What is happening, that we're such a place of welcome to people? And the answer is, well, here we are. You didn't see us coming, but now we're here. And York, for example, has one of the widest ranges of cuisines in Europe now. You want Afghan food, it's available not far from this campus. You want food from Nepal, it's in the city. You want to get 4 different types of Chinese food, we've got it. You got to come to York and you can see your request is some far-flung kind of cuisine, we probably have it. And that's just part of that enrichment of the city. A city needs to be cosmopolitan. And a lot of people have often in the past told me, well, York is a very white city. I'm sorry, you're living in the past, When I came to the city in 1990, it's a very small percentage of people came from anywhere else but, a white van in the city somewhere. But that's not true now. 12% of the population were not born in York or not even born in this country, but came from somewhere else. Now that is pretty much the national average. So if you want to see what a city looks like or what this country looks like in terms of the number of people who've come from somewhere else, you will come to York and you'll see it. It's not frightening numbers. It's not overwhelming numbers. The city is not sinking beneath the ground because of the sheer weight of people here. It simply enriches us and makes us a city worth coming to, worth being in, and just feeling this is a vibrant place to live. It's much more than it was. When I came, it felt like an overblown market town, Now you can walk the streets and feel, there are things here to explore. There are things here to see. There are different languages on the bus as you come back and forth. I think that's enriching. I love being part of York and seeing what's happening to it. And York City of Sanctuary is part of what's making it happen.
Yeah, I suppose people just think York tourist town.
Yes, of course, York tourist town, but it's
yeah.
So of course, some of the people you see on the street are tourists from far-flung corners of the universe, which is true. But there are a lot of people who are there, obviously from some other country, who live here and they've lived here a long time. So all this talk about migrants and how they damage the economy, and sad to include our current Prime Minister in that. I never thought I'd hear talking in such rubbish language, but still, there you go. That people bring their gifts and their skills and their abilities, and some people I've seen come as refugees, and we've worked with them, and now they're working as lecturers in the university, or They've gone off and made careers of their own. They brought, their family with them. They're here, they're settled, they become UK citizens. They can't go back to where they came from. There's nothing there for them. Their life there is over. So that is quite a huge commitment for them to make, to come here, to settle, to build their life here. And,
that's the one thing that I think for some reason the media fail to actually ever mention. That people, it's not that they want to leave, they have to leave.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to be either discriminated against heavily or, even worse, killed.
Yes, indeed.
And, if they could stay in their home country, they would.
Absolutely.
But of course, that doesn't get picked up by the media. That it's just, I was listening earlier in the week, and the radio news, every time it came on every hour, was record numbers of migrants in small boats.
Yeah.
And that's all, but I mean, they didn't say that those people are having to leave because, they didn't choose to walk across continents and live in the rough just because they fancied a free house, which apparently they get and money.
They don't get a free house. They don't get benefits. They're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to apply for driving license. They're not allowed NHS treatment. They've got to pay for it. I mean, all the things that we're told that they walk in and have is simply not true. And I'm not saying that, because I don't know the system. It's because I know the system that I can say without doubt this is the case. People are put up in hotels, but they'll come here because they're going to live in a hotel.
Now, who wants to do that?
Who wants to do that for months on end? 2 people and 5 kids in one room, for months on end, and no idea when it will come to an end and whether they'll hear that they can stay or not, And some of these people come from war zones such as Afghanistan and so on, and they've worked with the British Army, and they managed to get here. The British authorities said that there would be a pathway opened up for them, but the pathway has proved to be very difficult to negotiate and full of bureaucracy. For example, if you wanted to leave Afghanistan, you had to get a visa from the local Taliban in order to enable you to leave the country. These are the very people who are looking for you, who are wanting to chop your head off, because you're a person who, is a traitor for having worked with the British Army. I mean, why would you go to them and say, please, can I have a visa? I'd like to leave the country. Oh, by the way, you'll have my name on your list. Yes, we have. Thank you. Good. You don't need a visa where you're going. So, I mean, this is all, they've had no route to get out apart from, they've had to put themselves in hands of smugglers or other people to get here. And there was the promise given that they would have a safe route, and it has not been applied in any sense without ridiculous obstacles in the way. And so they come here, they risk their lives to come. And when they get here, then because there's so many people who've come and haven't been processed in any time at all, they've been left months on end. Again, a government policy of the past that was saying, if we process these applications too quickly, then this will only encourage more people to come. Well, the response to the answer to that was, in the end, it just leads to a whole backlot of people who you haven't got enough room to put them in houses, so you end up with hotels. So that's why they're there. It's not due to their decision, why do we go and live in a hotel in the UK? That'd be great. It's down to a government policy that said we must slow down the rate at which we're dealing with applications, which took place, I think, around 2019, a decision to slow the whole process down.
So it's politically engineered then?
Yeah, politically. It was, Home Office officials were reaching about 19 decisions a week, and then they were told to reduce it to 4. So the effect was that the accommodation available just simply got crammed up and came to a complete... So nobody thought about this and how was this going to work. And so now here we are, small boats. And the boats are getting bigger as well. I mean, they used to be carrying about 30 people at a time. Now they're taking 110, 120 people each crossing. I mean, that is so dangerous. I mean, we ought to find a better way of doing it than this.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Just saying, well, we'll wait till they get in the water and then we'll stop them. I mean, that's too late. There are plenty of other ways we could do this. There are some people who are obviously illegal and, they haven't come from war zones. They're coming because they're living in areas of poverty and they want to make a better life for themselves. But they're not refugees. I mean, they're migrants looking for...
Well, the economic migrants. Yeah,
that's right. And there are people like that. And, we're not dealing with them. We don't see any illegal migrants because once they're in the country, they don't put their head above the parapet. They're working in a hidden economy, a black economy.
Yes, quite.
And there are some of them around, in this area, some of them working on farms, some of them running cannabis warehouses across the local area, some of them working in nail bars, some of them working behind the scenes in restaurants and so on. We do occasionally get visits into York from, people coming to suss them out and take them away. But they've come here illegally. They don't come in small boats. Often they're coming in other boats that take them across to other small harbours in the south of England and taken away by lorry and taken to farms and elsewhere. So it's another issue altogether.
That's a completely different thing altogether, though. That's a criminal enterprise, isn't it? To get cheap labour once they're here.
Yeah, that's a very different issue from the people we're working with. And the Home Office, when they look at the cases of the people who come by small boats, their figures are that 85% of those who arrive in small boats have a legal claim to apply for asylum. 85%.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So most of those people have, under international law, the right to seek asylum because from where they've come. Not a figure that the Home Office, announces boldly every week, and not a figure that, some of the right-wing press pick up either. But that's the reality. One of our issues is trying to bring some of the truth of what's going on here to the wider world.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground there. Our time is up. And so thanks for coming in and talking to us, Paul. It was really enlightening. And hopefully if people listen to this, they'll be encouraged to get in touch with the Book of Refugees podcast. Easiest way to do that is point your browser at york.ac.uk and just search for Book of Refugees. You'll find our pages and there's a contact page on there. If you'd like to come on and contribute, or even contribute in a different way, send in some your story or whatever, that's brilliant, and we'll do our best to feature that. So all that remains for me is to say I hope you found this episode as interesting as I have done, and goodbye till next time. So goodbye.
Goodbye.